So to start with, the core problem is that email is pretty terrible, and there's a thousand reasons why this is the case. And I'll refer you to a really great article from CoDesign that talks about how email over the last 30 years, and really email is a 30-year technology, has become a really, really disastrous thing. And honestly, there's really no answer to it. And I'll talk about that in greater detail in a few moments. But the bottom line is that email's become this kind of overwhelming tool where we're dumping all sorts of things into this email box, whether it's productive for those items to go there or not. And part of the problem with email, of course, is that emails become an everyday thing, like a coffee pot. The problem is that a coffee pot and many other objects in our day-to-day life have a very, very clear purpose and a very, very clear use and very, very clear instructions, whereas emails become kind of this dumping place for everything. And in fact, emails become kind of an unwieldy tool because we can't really decide what to do with it. And in absence of creating a really good solution to email, instead we just continue to dump more and more and more items into our inbox until it becomes kind of an unwieldy beast. And really, email is not a perfect tool for anything, let alone anything in specific. And because of that, we've been trying for 20 years now to come up with a better way to utilize email, a better way to structure and formulate email. And it's my belief, along with many technology authors, that we're really not quite there and will probably be unlikely to be there in the relatively near future. And I'll give you an idea of what I mean by this. I'm obviously someone that emails quite a lot as part of my day job. In fact, my record number of emails sent in a single day must be at least in the 500 range or more in days when I'm very, very busy and answering lots of small requests as part of what ends up in my email box. And I did an analysis on a busy day of what ended up in my work email box, and it doesn't look super great. 45% of all the emails in my email box were automated emails. This came from systems that were giving me notifications of which most of which I could ignore because they weren't notifications I really needed. 16% of emails were ads or spam, and I kind of put ads or spam all in one big category because I don't really pay attention to either. I get quite a few newsletters, and these can be interesting, and newsletters have proliferated quite aggressively in the last few years as more and more people want to subscribe or want you to subscribe to their email newsletter. And then if you look at this for a moment, well less than 20% of the useful email in my email box are help tickets, which I can act on, inner office email, which means email between members of my staff that work here at the University of Montana, and then just 7% of those emails are external. Now, on a busy day, that could mean hundreds of emails coming in my direction I need to directly respond to, but part of my strategy of dealing with emails, I need to be able to process that and deal with it appropriately and meaningfully. Now, that said, email terrible, right? And I think most people would agree with that. But the other side of this coin is that it appears that everyone has been kind of calling for the end of email, and everyone over the last really 10 years have been saying things like email's about to be dead. I'll give you some examples of articles. This one says email will be dead by 2020. So just 2 years from now, email will be a phenomenon that will have gone away and will be replaced by something else. This one says that email's dead and proclaims that email to be dead like it has been claimed a number of times in the past, and correctly claiming, and this is a great article by John C. Dvorak, that email still has the same problems it did 20 years ago when the technology wasn't nearly as nuanced and email was a much more simple tool. And then last, there's a lot of folks that would claim to you that millennials are not using email, and email seems to be a phenomenon of just the older folks, which will be the first of many articles and perspectives we'll share with you that like to wring their hands about millennials as it relates to technology. But the real reality is that the alternative tools which are supposed to take over, like this particular article talks a little bit about social networking will replace email by 2014. And of course, that's tongue in cheek because that was 8 years ago this prognosis was made, and in 2014 it didn't come true. We're still very aggressively using email. The bottom line is that email is still a very, very important tool, and social networking really hasn't replaced email as a means of primary business communication. And so something that we'll talk about in a moment is why schools are somewhat unique in that phenomenon. And in fact, schools themselves are still very much run on email.